Deep breath.
All right, hello. Big Smoke. Where are we right now?
Right now we're on Court Avenue, basically where I spent the majority of my youth. Just whether it be from shows or working, partying, slanging, everything that I ever learned or experienced, I learned most of it from particularly this building, which is Court Avenue.
Nice. Now, Big Smoke, I know that you used to be known as Scotty Pee around these streets. Can you explain the name change and why'd you pick it?
Yeah, Scotty Pee was the beginning, and I used to be in a group called The Foot. There's me, Dom, but he now goes by Chill Mac, and then Dusto, D Dusto, G Spot, whatever you want to call him. But it was us three, and we had a good thing going. And there's no beef or anything with them. They're still my boys, they're still my homies, but it was just time to move on. So it's a new chapter in my life. And thanks to Tanner or Johnny Mars and Jim, shout out Jim, and Telebanks, they basically gave me the nickname Big Smoke, and I'm just gonna be running with it ever since. Plus, I want all the smoke, and I smoke all the smoke, you know?
How long did you work in this building?
10 years, 10 plus years. My first break was working for Sam Summers, doing First 3 Productions, where I would stage hand shows, be a runner, and do all that stuff. Basically, glorified babysitter, but it was a tight job. It gave me a lot of experience. And the very top floor of this place used to be a music venue called People's Court, which is now, I believe, Deer Can Alley or something like that. I don't know. Gentrification's real. But yeah, I worked in here, and then I worked at Liars, Jokers, Shags, and that was just a hot spot. Every weekend I would just work, but at the same time I was trapping, so I was putting in a lot of working hours. So whenever I wasn't in this building, I'd be down here on Court Avenue, where it'd be for Sunday Fun Day, where we would get fucked up and then go fight in a parking lot just because of some ignorant shit. Or afterwards, when I was slanging, people would still be up and they would just hit me up, go to the fucking buildings, you know what I mean, after parties and all those things. So Court Avenue will always have a weird place in my heart. Sometimes I'm like, man, fuck this place, but I can't help it. I made a lot of money and I gained a lot of experience from it, so.
What is because I'm sure there's just so many. I mean, I worked right here for a while. What is one of the craziest stories?
Man, one of the craziest stories would definitely have to be the beginning of Jokers. And when I say the beginning of Jokers, it's because it was like the newest spot and everyone was coming to it. It was just the fresh, hot spot to come to. I remember it was like a couple of months into us working, and the craziest fight broke out. The Bulldogs, which is a crew around here or whatever, they got into it with some Africans, and this fight went on for like 15, 20 minutes. I'm not even lying. Like, it would be like me getting into it, like this African, literally, I had a fro at the time. This African hit me over the head with a bottle, but it bounced off my head, and I fucking lost my shit, and just dragged him across the bar. But I looked over, and people were throwing bar stools, people were throwing tables, people were throwing anything they could. Like, one of our security dudes, I think his name was Rich. He was like a center. He played for the Des Moines Blaze. Big motherfucker. We finally got through like 3 or 4 tuffles, and then like he was stuck. We were trying to get everyone out, and these Africans were punching through the door. And so he tried to be a hero and like jumped over someone to try to shut the door. And as soon as he did, he turned his back to us, and they just lit him up, and he went down. So I'm over here dragging this 320-pound dude through the fucking doorway while I'm taking hits. Like, it was the craziest fucking fight I've ever been in, the craziest experience. Like, nothing like it. It was wild. This exact spot that we're sitting in is where I was parked the very first time that I got pulled over. I wasn't even pulled over, I was sitting. I got arrested by Kyle Thesis. I was just chilling in my car at the bar, closed, and he basically just knocked on my window and immediately pulled me out of my car, where he arrested me with 2 baggies of yay. It was like a long chapter of my life, and it started right here. I was harassed by this cop for several years, and I'm still dealing with the consequences from it today. Ha.
Alrighty. Hey, Big Smoke.
What up?
So, we're at the police station now. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on Kyle Thesis and what has happened to him since?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say, I don't know if it's Kyle Thesis or Kyle Tice, or this, whatever the fuck it is, he's a fucking dickhole. But essentially, I worked downtown on Court Avenue, and every chance he could get, he would arrest me. And I don't know if you know anything about Iowa, most people don't, but Des Moines is a really hard place to travel unless you have a vehicle. So at the time, in my brain, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna risk it, because it just made sense at the time to just do that. So I was driving without a license or whatever, but it still doesn't give him the right, because the very first time that he pulled me over, like I said, I wasn't even pulled over. I was just chilling in my car, and he basically immediately pulled me out of the car, started calling me homeboy, asked me if I had guns, anything like that, asked me to give up people's names and all that other shit, and I didn't go for it. And the last time that I saw him, he pulled me over 4 times. The last time I saw him, I was on 3rd and Court, and he followed me. He watched me walk to my car. I walked 3 or 4 blocks over, walked to my car. I had a different car than the car that he used to pull me over in, because it was too hot. So I was like, I'm gonna get a different car. And he waited until I got in the car, and he waited until I went down 3rd before I got on the interstate. And he had someone else pull me, like pick me up out of his car, his partner. And I asked what I was being detained for. He said, you know what you did. Immediately started searching the car, didn't read me my rights or anything like that. And at the time it was crazy. Like, a lot of people be like, oh, this wasn't even mine, but it really wasn't even mine. It was my homies from a show. I'm gonna keep that anonymous, but it was my homies from a show, and he had a date with his girl, and so I had his pipe and a little bit of his green in my bag, or my back seat, like in a coat. I forgot all about it or whatever, and they found that, and it was a wrap. They tried to hit me with 5 years for that bullshit, but Kyle got his. They fired him because they realized that pretty much all of his arrests were black males, and it was a pattern. And yeah, he got sued. A lot of people put in lawsuits and things like that. So, I mean, he got his. Like, small dick energy fucking cannot exist.
Do you remember, like, finding out that he got arrested, and how you found out, and where from?
I believe I was just chilling, and someone sent me this video of a kid that got pulled over He wasn't doing anything wrong. It was on KCCI, and got pulled over, wasn't doing anything wrong, and that was like the start of it. That was like the whistler, but you know what I mean? And I was like relieved, but at the same time, I was like, at that point, I was in the darkest point of my life, and I really had given up on the justice system, and I still don't fucking believe in the justice system. And so I didn't think it was gonna affect me or have like really anything to do with me. I was just stoked to see him not on the streets, because ACAB, but for real, fuck Kyle. Like, it's not cool to ruin people's lives for no fucking reason. I ain't out here going crazy. Like, I've always kept a job, you know what I mean? I sold a little bit on the side. I'm not gonna say that I was like a plug or anything like that. I just sold stuff to make ends meet, because it's hard fucking paying for your bills when you're only making $7.50, $8 an hour. Like, who the fuck can live off of that shit? And then when the court systems are taken out of your pocket and you can't do nothing, and it just marginalizes you and then institutionalizes you and all that other shit, and it's fucked up. The systems has got to change. We got to fucking tear it down and build a new one. And I don't understand why people consistently want to keep feeding into it, because there's no point.
With 3 grands and they made me a felon. Fuck Kyle Thesis, he's a motherfucking racist. If he throw shade, you the lame or a basic. Only thing I hate is when times get wasted. Gotta take a game of life, I'm living out of Vegas. Got my eyes open and I'm still in the snake pit. Man in the mirror is the only one I face. Mad at yourself, it's the reason why you hate. Try to be the best, ain't no time to debate, bitch.
One of your most recent singles was I Can't Breathe, right before you put out Dinner Time. Got a pretty good response amongst the community. But first off, what brought this song about?
I mean, it's not something new that I've been talking about in my music. If you go back to The Foot, or you go back to my first solo album, or even my second solo album, I bring up these points of things that have been happening, and it's not a coincidence, but obviously the death of George Floyd was a huge part of it. Everyone across the country rioted and protested, and I went up to Minnesota, was on the front lines in that water, and with a few friends, and to watch it all happen was crazy. To be in the midst of watching like 12 all on top of buildings and all that shit, and see flames and people just breaking into stuff, and it was just, I felt a huge burden of responsibility with my music and to my community, to show that we exist and that this problem needs to be treated. So I just went into the studio with a really heavy heart, but in the end it came out great. And I think that Telebanks killed his verse. I think that I showed a different side of my music and of me and my ability to write, you know what I mean? Like, all around, I think that that's why the success that it had and will continue to have is because of, you can feel real deep, passionate feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Bro, get up, get in the car, man.
I will.
Get up, get in the car.
I can't move.
I've been waiting the whole time, man. Get up, get in the car.
Mama.
Get
I
up.
can breathe, it's taking the knee. Hands in their pockets, to choking me. They don't try to hide it, they want your ass to see. You labeled as some buzz, they don't want us to be.
So that was the impact on you. How did you want society and people that was just listening to it, how did you want it to impact them? And what did you want them to get from it?
I think I'm just delivering the same message that my kind has been delivering since we were stolen or sold or brought here, whatever you want to say. But since we've been here, and that's just to fucking treat us like we're equals. Like, I already have a hard time dealing with life. On top of that, I'd have to deal with constant racism and constant fucking verbal and mental abuse and just worrying about my life and my fucking safety, and it shouldn't even be just because of a fucking skin color. It's blows my mind. It's preposterous. It's so many things, but I'm just saying the same message that my fucking whole fucking kind has been saying since day one, and that's just, we want to just be treated as equal, not like above, not like special privilege, just we want to be seen as fucking equals, you know what I mean?
And not only that, bring everyone else on a level playing field. Like, there's just how people should be treated, and then just how people shouldn't be treated, and then there's people that are being treated better than they should be. So
yeah, the fact that there's people out there that just don't agree with equal rights is by far mind-blowing. And I know it's just because capitalism society that we live in, and I know that fucking sounds like a fucking saying, beating the same drum, but it's fucking true, because we live in a society that we value money more than we value human beings. We value fucking dogs more than we value fucking minorities. So it's simple, man. Just treat us like equals.
yeah, I feel that.
Rain down, Spread white guilt because you guys are down on the block party. All y'all whiteys at home didn't come out to Juneteenth. Y'all nowhere to be found. Stupid, y'all should be out in these streets. I want at least 69% in the streets. 69. 69. Celebration, we free out here. That's it, I can turn my flashlight on my phone on that shit. Because that's how free I am. I can turn on my flashlight.
So you understand?
Cue fireworks. So it's a new year. A lot has happened since your last songs came out. What is to come for you? What music and what projects are you working on?
Currently, I'm finishing up I Cant Breathe EP. That's been in the works for a minute. I have about 3 to 4 solid songs on there. I want about 3 to 4 more. But a lot happened. I was so involved in the movement in the beginning and just being active with BLM and being active with ACLU and all this other stuff. And then it drastically took a dip because of winter and because obviously COVID. So things have slowed down a lot, but had a bit of a writer's block because of it. But now I'm feeling the passion, the energy, and I've been working on that. So that's soon to come. We're gonna have a couple music videos for that. And then after that, I'm also working on a way to get the Des Moines community more involved with music, and that's starting a podcast called Rap Addict. And I think that will just give people around our community in Des Moines area / all over the world, because there's a lot of great and active artists that aren't getting exposed because we live in the Midwest and because we fucking live in Iowa and people don't want to take Iowa as something serious. But there's a lot of talent, and there's no doubt in my mind that people will get big and get large. So I just want to give the opportunity, when you get up, you give back. So I want to give the opportunity for artists to come on and talk about their music, and we just talk about things that are happening in the current society and what's going on in our city and all that other stuff. So yeah, be on the lookout for those.
Yeah, I definitely feel like when people think Iowa, they don't really think racism or music, but
Yeah.
there's a shit ton of it here, and suppression definitely, unfortunately, suppression can bring beautiful things and beautiful art out of that, and definitely needs to be heard.
There's black people in Iowa, I promise. I promise you we're here. We go hard. We'll continue to go hard, I promise you.
Yeah.
A lot of historical changes for the government and like the U.S. history. A lot of things have happened here, you know what I mean? And we have a good set of roots, and people tend to push us off because they think we're country hicks, but I've never seen a fucking farm. I've seen like 2 or 3 farms when I was driving past. I'm not a farm boy, you know what I mean? Like, there's niggas in Iowa. There's niggas in Iowa. They're everywhere. I see a nigga here, I see a nigga there.
What are your 5 most influential artists? Top 5.
Top 5? Top 5. Top 5.
Take your time.
I would definitely have to say.
You don't have to put them in order if you don't.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna put them in order. That influences me the most are man, that's a good question. You gotta be like honest with myself about that. Like, what do I think? Like, you mean like what my like music sounds like the most? That like what my music influences? Like,
what inspires you the most?
Okay.
Like, what makes you want to write?
What makes me want to write?
Yeah. What inspires you to write?
What inspires me to write? It would be essentially feeling. Like, I've always been able to, being like an only child and stuff like that, you got kind of like a lot of alone time with yourself. So I've always been able to pick certain feelings to go with music, or I feel like I remember like soundtracks, like basically essentially to my life, where like anything that was happening, there had been like a song that, like, you know what I mean, that made me feel a certain way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But for influences for music, I would have to say Drake is a big one. Andre 3000, Public Enemy, Dead Prez, and I'm gonna like throw in like a weird one. I'm gonna say Tony Braxton. Dude, Tony Braxton does a lot for me. Like, there's a lot of Tony Braxton songs that like I just realized. Or Mary J. That's up there for me too.
Why them?
Aaliyah too, also, those 3 artists. Just because I mean, I grew up around a lot of black women, and they listened to a lot of R&B and stuff like that, and I was just, you know what I mean, just their shit. So it just reminds me of them and what they liked. And like I said, I can go back and pick those 3 artists and tell you like crazy stories, you know what I mean, what happened when I was listening to those songs, crazy feelings that I got, and every time I listen to those songs, I like all their songs, like to this day, still stimulate me, and still like I don't ever get tired of them, period, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. Dig that.
Or period.
So, if you could smoke with any of those fantastic, very talented artists that you named before, only one group, who would it be?
Dead Prez, for sure.
Why then?
I mean, besides like Malcolm X and Fred Hampton and Martin Luther King and Angela Davis and all those other people, like Dead Prez was the first people to put me on to them. The album just spoke to me and still speaks to me because it's a struggle that every black person has to go through, whether they like to admit it or not. But it is just living in America. The same thing I went through is the same thing that my grandpa, my dad, and my great-grandpa went through, and we can still talk about it, which sucks. But it is what it is. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do next? Put in a break? Now drop it down. Oh, ooh, 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 ooh. Oh.
Work those hips. Work them.